When my mother died, I thought grief would be the hardest part. It wasn't. The hardest part was realizing she had already chosen who mattered most, and it wasn't me. My name is Evelyn Ross, and this is the story of how my sister inherited everything, except peace. Before we begin, if you enjoy calm, emotional stories about family, betrayal, and quiet redemption, please like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more softly told stories that linger long after they end. My mother, Margaret Ross, was a woman who believed fairness was weakness. She said it often, "Life isn't fair, darling, and it shouldn't be. Some people earn more love than others." I was 12 the first time she said that to me. My sister Helena was 15. Helena was the golden one, beautiful, confident, magnetic. She had a way of walking into a room and making everyone feel smaller, but somehow also adored. Mother adored her most of all. Helena got the new dresses, the piano lessons, the private school. I got what was left over. I didn't resent it then. Children believe love has logic, that if you behave, if you try hard enough, love will balance itself out. But it doesn't. Even as adults, that imbalance remained. When Helena opened her boutique, Mother funded it. When I published my first book, she barely mentioned it. "Not everything needs applause," she said once, sipping her tea. "Some successes are just personal." She meant mine. So when Mother's health began to fail, I stayed by her side, not because I expected anything, but because she was still my mother. I cooked for her, read to her, sat through the long silences between her breaths. Helena came when she could with flowers, perfume, and a camera smile for the nurses. Mother always lit up when Helena entered the room. I'd watch from the corner, invisible as ever. When she passed, the world went quiet in that strange way it does, after a long storm, too calm, too clear. The lawyer called a week later. "Both daughters must be present for the reading of the will," he said. I remember the room, heavy curtains, polished wood, the faint scent of old paper and power. Helena arrived late, as always, in designer black. She hugged me like someone greeting a distant relative. The lawyer cleared his throat. To Helena, she left everything, the house, the savings, the boutique shares, the jewelry box. Everything. To me, she left a note. "Evelyn, you never needed money to prove your worth. My hope is that you'll find your own kind of happiness, the kind that doesn't depend on inheritance." Helena pressed her lips together to hide a smile. Even the lawyer looked uncomfortable. I said nothing. I simply folded the note, placed it in my purse, and walked out. That night, Helena called. Her voice was soft, almost sympathetic. "Evie, I hope there are no hard feelings. You know how Mother was." I laughed quietly, hollowly. "Yes." I said, "I do." And that was the last time we spoke for almost a year. Until, one winter evening, a letter arrived in my mailbox. It was from Helena. The handwriting was rushed, unfamiliar. "Evie, I need your help. The business is failing. The house repairs are draining everything. I don't know what to do." I held that letter for a long time, tracing the ink with my thumb. Funny how money can silence love and how its absence suddenly revives it. I didn't respond right away. I just folded the letter and placed it beside Mother's old note, the one that said, "I didn't need money to prove my worth." And for the first time, I started to believe it. I had spent my life chasing love that was never meant for me. Now, finally, I had something my sister didn't. Peace. But peace, I realized, isn't always quiet. Sometimes it whispers with a smile. Now, let them learn. Weeks passed before I replied to Helena's letter. Not out of cruelty, but because silence has its own way of speaking. It lets people sit with what they've built or destroyed. When I finally wrote back, I kept it brief. "Dear Helena, I'm sorry things are difficult. I hope you find what you're looking for. Take care, Evelyn. I didn't offer money. I didn't offer advice, just words polite, empty, and measured. The same kind she'd once given me all my life." A few months later, she called. Her voice trembled, stripped of its usual confidence. "Evie, please." The house needs repairs. The bank is pressuring me. You're the only one I can turn to." I listened quietly as she spoke. The woman who once boasted about her success now sounded like someone drowning in the very fortune she'd fought to keep. Finally, I said softly, "You have everything, Helena. Remember, you don't need me." There was a long silence before she hung up. That night I made tea and reread Mother's note. It no longer stung. Instead, it felt like clarity, a reminder that sometimes what we're denied is what ultimately saves us. Because if I had inherited her money, I would have stayed in their world, that shallow pool of vanity, competition, and dependence. Instead, I had been forced to swim deeper, into something real. My writing had begun to flourish. My second book was being published. My lectures were drawing full audiences. I was earning more than I'd ever dreamed of, quietly, steadily, on my own terms. And yet, I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. Life, I'd learned, has a subtle way of balancing its scales. A year later, I returned to the family estate, not for reconciliation, but closure. The house looked different now. The garden that once bloomed under Mother's care was overgrown. The paint was peeling. The laughter that once filled its walls had long faded into echoes. Helena met me at the gate. Her beauty had dulled, her confidence worn thin. "You came," she said, her voice small. "I did," I replied. Inside, the house smelled of neglect and perfume, faint and cloying. On the grand piano, dust gathered where her trophies once gleamed. We sat at the same dining table where our mother had once presided like a queen. Helena's eyes darted across the room as if still searching for approval that would never come. "I thought money would fix everything," she whispered. "I thought it would make me feel like she loved me more for a reason, but it didn't. It ruined everything she built." I said nothing. Sometimes silence is kinder than truth. She looked at me, tears trembling on her lashes. "Evie, I was awful to you. I know that. I didn't know who I was without her." "You were her mirror," I said quietly. "She loved you because she saw herself in you, but you never learned how to love yourself beyond her reflection." She broke then, shoulders shaking, hands pressed to her face. "I don't know how to fix it." I watched her for a moment at this woman who had taken everything that was never truly hers, and I felt no anger, no triumph, just the soft ache of understanding. "You can start," I said gently, "by forgiving yourself, but forgiveness doesn't erase what you've done. It teaches you to live with it." She nodded, though I could tell she didn't fully understand yet. Regret is a slow teacher. It doesn't arrive with tears, it lingers, quietly, in the spaces left by what we've lost. Before I left, she asked, "Will you help me, Evie? Just until I get back on my feet?" I thought of our mother, her words, her choices, her lessons wrapped in favoritism and pride. I thought of how I had spent a lifetime chasing what Helena had been handed. And then softly I said, "I already have." She looked confused. "What do you mean?" "I gave you something you never had before," I said. "The chance to see who you are without money to hide behind. That's what I came here to give you." Her lips parted, but no words came. I turned to go. At the door, I paused and looked back at her, my sister, my rival, my mirror in another life. "You got everything she left behind, Helena," I said quietly. And I got what she couldn't buy, freedom. When I stepped outside, the air was sharp and clean. The wind carried the faint scent of lilac's mother's favorite flower. For the first time, the memory didn't hurt. It simply existed, like an echo fading in peace. Years passed. Helena eventually sold the house. I never went back. We spoke occasionally, short, polite conversations that carried more silence than words. But once, on my birthday, she sent me a small box. Inside was Mother's old ring, the one I used to admire as a child, but was never allowed to wear. There was a note. "You were right. Some things aren't meant to be owned, only understood. I hope you're happy now. H." I closed the box, smiled faintly, and placed it beside my desk, where I wrote, because happiness isn't inherited. It's built one truth, at a time. And as I looked out the window at the morning light spilling across the trees, I whispered a quiet thank you not to my mother, not to my sister, but to the version of myself that had learned to rise without either of them. If this story touched you, please like, comment, and subscribe for more calm, emotional stories, the kind that remind us that the greatest revenge isn't destruction, it's peace.